Welcome one and welcome all to the WeAreBoard Podcast. You know, every board gamer has that one mechanic that just clicks. So in this episode, each of us will break down our absolute favorite mechanics. From brain-burning strategy to smooth, satisfying gameplay, we share what makes these mechanics special and the games that use them the best. In our Spotlight of the Week, we explore the Board Game Stats app. If you've ever wanted to track your plays, analyze your win rates, or settle once and for all who's the real champion Agricola, this app has you covered. We'll go over its features, why we use it, and whether it's worth adding to your repertoire. And of course, we hop aboard that BG hype train, choo-choo, to talk about what's buzzing in the board gaming world. There's even something to back this time that isn't a board game, so stick around to find out. Now, hold on to your seat, steering wheel, or lawnmower, and lock in, and get ready for another great discussion on board games. We are back. We are ready to talk about some more board games. How you doing there, Aaron and Victor?
Doing gooch, King. Thanks for asking. I'm ready to get it in.
Living so large, dude.
How large?
Larger than life, baby.
That's what I like to hear. Off the shelf. Get those board games off the shelf of shame and let's get them to the table. What have y'all been playing? The people need to know. The people want to know.
All right, King. So your man broke out last week. It was me and some homies
Yo.
playing that back on our space stuff. So Last Light is the fast-paced 4X game designed by Roy Cannaday and published by Gray Fox Games. In Last Light, 2 to 4 players compete as asymmetric alien factions who are trying to simultaneously gather light or victory points right before the heat death of the universe. So our group had the expansion, which allowed for 5 people to play, and with Teach, the game only lasted around an hour and a half, so it was a pretty quick one. We were all kind of astounded by
Wow.
how easily it was able to be picked up and actually like play it all the way through. So that was sick. It's funny that I played Last Light right after SETI because it also involves like a rotating board that like it rotates to mimic planets rotating. But I think I enjoyed Last Light a little bit more for 2 reasons. So one, in order to carry out actions, you all have to play cards, and everybody has the same 6 cards that allows each player to like build ships and build portals. Another that lets you just gather resources. One lets you research tech. One lets you move. And then when you play the cards, they have to stay down. And so you have a refresh card that goes down. It'll score you points based on where your ships are and like where they've built like little portals, either on the inner or the outer ring of the planet. And so once you play the refresh card, that stays down until everybody else plays their refresh card. When everybody plays their refresh card, you'll have like one more round of like scoring, and then the next round goes. So it's those rounds started going super quick because it almost became a thing where it's like, do I do like a not optimal action to, like kind of keep the game going? But once somebody starts that refresh, they're ready to like pop back off. So it was a nice little tug and pull mechanic that I really liked. And it also sped the game up because we only have 6 options. There's like not that much room for analysis paralysis, and I think that everybody can kind of move the same speed. You're able to adjust your strategy, and it's also one of those games where it's like since it's not taking so long, you don't have to like 40 chess yourself into like having like a longer strategy. All you have to do is just be like, how do I get the most points, and like what do I need to set up in like maybe 2 or 3 card plays, and that's about it. So I really enjoy those games because they kind of keep the thing moving. The second thing I really liked a lot more than SETI is the combat. And I always love simple combat. All it is you play a card, you move your ships in to an opponent's space, and you roll a dice. If you hit the person, you take their life points off, and that's about it. Um, the dice are really aggressive. I think you have a 4 and 6 chance of hitting, and of those 4 and 6, it's a 1 in 6 chance of you hitting, then re-rolling another dice. So like the game's about like killing ships. So that was cool. And the cool thing about blowing people's stuff up is like you snatch their chain. So when you kill somebody's ship, you put it on your graveyard. When you get 4 ships in the graveyard, you give it back to the people and you get a point. or people can buy like the buy a ship action. You pay resources. If they buy a ship off of your graveyard, they take their chain back. You get the resources that they would have paid to build that ship. So if you kill like the super powerful ships, you're about to get broke off. So I enjoyed that game. It was crazy because me and Crossover, it's a dude I play board games with, we literally tied at 22 points. We then had the same amount of ships out, the same amount of portals built, and it came down to resources. So we had like two tiebreakers that it came down to the wire. I lost by like 4 resources. So it was really good. It was really fast. Have you guys heard of Last Light? What do you guys think?
Oh yeah. So you know me. I actually got the Kickstarter delivered maybe about a month ago on this one. I got the base game with the expansion. And, I even splurged for the resin planets. Did your copy have that, Aaron? That you play with?
They did. They had the resin planets, upgraded deluxe bits, all the whole 9 yards.
So, first and foremost, the main reason why I ended up backing this, I haven't had the chance to play it yet, but the main reason why I ended up backing this was because it claimed that it is a 4X game that can be played within an hour or two.
Mm-hmm.
So, would you say that is a true statement? And before you answer that, I guess let me explain what a 4X game is. 4X basically is an abbreviation of explore, expand, exploit, and exterminate. It became very popular in video games. Like StarCraft, Civilization, stuff like that. But now it's spilling over into the board game era, of course. And so I was always into games like that. Growing up, those video games I loved. And when I heard that they were claiming to, but I guess before I continue, the main drawback to that is that games tend to be very long. I'm talking like 4, 10 hours sometimes even. Not StarCraft as much, but And so when I saw that this game was claiming to do all that within an hour or two, and the way it looks, obviously the table presence is beautiful. I had to get it. I had to get it. And I guess now we come to you, Aaron. Is that statement true? Is this a 4X game that can be played in an hour or two?
Can it be played in an hour or two? 100%. It being a 4X game, I think it's cap.
Cap alert, cap alert.
When we think of the 4X explore, you do a little bit of exploring, like you move your people and you discover tiles. Exterminate, you kill your opponent, so that's the exterminate. The exploit, you have to get resources. But when it comes to what is it? It was explore,
Expand.
expand. There's no
Expand.
expansion. There's zero expansion. The board you start with is the board you're playing with.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay.
Well, that's probably what keeps it so much shorter. It's probably expanding and managing a whole bunch of territory and upkeep and all that. That's probably what keeps it short. I wouldn't be surprised if they had like a first draft where they had that and they were like, bruh, this is like 4 hours, 5 hours.
Yeah. But it's also like false advertisement. Like truly, like if we're being completely objective, I wouldn't consider it a 4X game at all.
Okay, but I mean, it still hits 3 of those points, and it sounds like it does do those 3 points very well. So, okay, not bad. There are some pictures on BGG for this game with those resin planets. People have put purple black lights to them, just to give it even more of that effect. And honestly, it looks really, really sick. I'm really excited to get this one out on the table. And also you mentioned Crossover 757, friend of the show. Follow him on Insta. He has a lot of rap songs related to board games, so got to help out the community there.
Exactly. The boy's dope.
Vic, what are your thoughts on Last Light? I'm curious.
Well, just walking around BGG Con last year, I just got salivating looking at all those planets. It's just one of those games where you just like stop and be like, hey, what are you guys playing?
Yeah.
So I didn't know too much about it. Just based on the name Last Light, it reminded me of that one game we played that was like based on light, where like you were in the dark and you couldn't move around.
Where we got clapped?
Yeah, that co-op game.
Is it the Night Cage? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah. Oh, Night Cage. That's what it was.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't realize it was a space game. I would see the box and it's called Last Light, and then I would see it out on the table, and I was like, "What game is this?" And they're like, "Last Light." And I was like, "Dude, what the hell? Like, this looks nothing like the box." But yeah, I mean, and it sounds punchy as hell. You know, just walk around, smack people, get some resources, in and out. So it seems like a really good time. I need to hit Tona's copy.
Yeah, and 2.73 weight, that's basically like right in the middle for complexity level. Take that as you may, but it sounds like a good time for, again, 1 to 2 hours. Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting my copy out there.
I'm not gonna lie, 2.73 seems a little high to me. I'd put that at about at a 2.
Okay, not
Eat
bad.
that for breakfast, baby.
Easy.
Yeah, cool, man. You heard it from Marin first. Check out Last Light if you have the opportunity, and make sure you get those resin planets with that black light. Ooh. Baby. Victor, what about you? What's off the shelf this time?
All right, baby. We got kind of a classic. So, Sky Mines, which is a reimplementation of Mombasa.
Mm-hmm.
So designed by Alexander Pfister, the original designer. On this one, he got an assist from Victor Kobilki, published by Deep Print Games. So Sky Mines, you are companies that are taking over the woke ass government that has failed to properly exploit the moon. So you're coming in and you're investing in different companies to exploit the moon much more better. So what's interesting about this game is that you're trying to have the most money at the end of the game. The way you get money typically is by having the most shares of different companies, and there's 4 different companies, but anybody's free to invest in any company. And then you're also free to help any company kind of expand throughout the moon, right? Mm-hmm. So the early game, it's a little bit like, which direction do you want to go? Which companies do you want to help? Do you want to kind of ride someone else's coattails and be like, man, he's really got, company A over there thriving.
Yeah.
Do you want to jump on that ship, or do you want to get into a little corporate warfare? And by warfare, it's like really simple. You're placing like outposts onto spaces, and you can replace the outposts of another company to fuck with them, basically. So yeah, one of the most interesting things about this game, though, is the way you choose your actions. You're going to start with a deck of cards. Everyone has the same, and you're going to play 3 of them. When you play those 3, you're going to pick up one of your decks in your kind of like resting area. You're going to have 5 slots for decks. So you're going to pick up one of those decks. Like the game setup starts with like a couple decks in your rest area and then a couple cards in your active hand. When you play a hand, you do your turn, blah, blah, blah. Then you're going to put all the cards you played in a different deck. And then you're going to pick one up. Well, you pick one up first, and then you put one in each deck. So what happens is, let's say you played 3 cards, and you played all your 3 best cards. Now those are in 3 different resting decks. So the next turn when you go to pick up a deck, you have to choose which deck, right? So as you're playing cards, you're having to consider like, well, I don't want to completely pop off with something because it's going to be really hard to get those 3 cards together again, right? Because like the cards give you like resources. So let's say you play like your 3 titanium cards.
Right.
Well, now your titanium cards are separated for like a long time. So it's really interesting having to manage that. And then it gets even more complex towards the end game when you've unlocked more slots and now you can play 5 cards. Mm-hmm. But then you have to put 5 cards across 5 different resting decks. And then, you start running out of cards. But there's a card market. You can buy more cards. And one of the things that's interesting about this game too is you kind of want to expand across different companies, right? And kind of hedge your bets. Mm-hmm. But the higher up you go a track on a company, the more shares you start getting for the same amount of resources, right? So like you have to invest in a company like 5 times before you get 1 share. But if you invest 5 more times, you've got like 3 more shares. right? So it kind of gets better to specialize. Plus, the more you invest in a company, you start unlocking like additional places to put your workers. You kind of have like some limited workers.
Yeah.
So yeah, so there's just like a lot of stuff going on. You got like cards you're playing, you got workers you can do, you're managing resources, you're making bets basically on these companies. So there's a lot going on. The theme is pretty, it's like we were talking about before, where it's just like everything these days is like space or, cute animals more recently. I will say though, it's definitely a good change from the original, which is, called Mombasa, which I hadn't played, but I was looking at it when I was, doing my show prep. And I was like, oh no, dude.
Oh, you found out? You found out?
You're all just Europeans managing like African companies, and you're all like trying to exploit Africa the most. And the resources in this game, you have titanium, carbon, mineral. In that game, you have bananas, coffee, and cotton.
Cringe.com.
Oh no.
Oh,
no.
Whoopsies.
But yeah, it's like a heavy little strategy game. It's not crazy long. But yeah, definitely like a heavy one.
Yeah, definitely have heard of this, and definitely heard of the controversy of Mombasa, right? And, to a good degree, I mean, it is 2025. Like, let's try to get rid of stuff like that, in our board games. So I get it. I will say, though, when Sky Mines was announced and about to release, someone on Facebook Marketplace sold me their copy of Mombasa for like $10. So I do have Mombasa sitting in my shelf. So I am curious, other than the theme, if the rule book is any different, other than addressing, calling stuff by different names and stuff. But
yeah, I think looking at it, I looked at it a little bit. It looks pretty much exactly the same, but the new thing you get is there is the board is double-sided. Mm-hmm. We didn't play on the back, but on the back is like an asteroid field instead of a moon. And then it comes with like a little like 4-episode campaign kind of thing.
Oh, cool.
Where I think each episode introduces like a random little rule, but we haven't checked that out yet.
Yeah, this game, and I'm speaking on Mombasa, not Sky Mines, but Mombasa was kind of one of like the OG, very good games, So I'm sure if it's exactly Sky Mines is exactly like Mombasa and it plays the same, then yeah, I would say it's probably pretty good. Aaron, have you heard of either Mombasa or Sky Mines?
Bruh, I played Sky Mines. Let me tell you, the purple faction. It's funny that Victor said like you either have to like kind of go heavy into one faction, or you kind of have to like ride somebody's coattails. Because I tried to go heavy into basically like the yellow track, and there was like a concerted effort to just be like, "Yo, we got to undermine Aaron because he's just somehow really good at these stock games." And I was like, "Well, that's not right." And then another dude was pumping up the purple track, so I was just like, "You know what? I'm gonna abandon the yellow track, and I am going to become an employee. My king, take me to the promised land with these purples." And brother, we maxed out that purple track and just clapped cheeks. He ended up winning. I think he ended up with like, I don't know, like let's say he had like 115 points. I had like 110. And everybody, like the closest person to that was I think 70. So yeah, riding coattails, if you swallow your pride and just go the corporate route, it's gooch.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, it was a 3-player game, and I started going off this one company. Both the other players started investing in another one of the companies. And I was like, bro, I ain't playing this 2v1 game. I was like, put me in. I am all about this company now.
That's Sky Mines. Well, for me, it was one of those eclipses. The moon was sitting just right. I was able to get the waifu to come out and play a board game with me.
Nice.
And that game was Drop It. Now, if you've been following us for a while, you'll know that that was one of the first YouTube videos WeAreBoard made. Drop It, and I'll include the link on the show notes so you guys can take a peek. But basically, Drop It is a game where you have circles, triangles, squares, and diamonds of different colors. It's designed by Bernard Lach or WeAreBoard. And basically, with these shapes, you have to slot them down a clear board, and you have to make sure that they don't touch the same color piece or the same type of piece. Otherwise, you get 0 points. But you're trying to drop it literally into this clear board and stack them in order to get points. And whoever, stacks them the highest without touching the same colored pieces basically wins the game. It's a very light game, but man, it's a classic. It's an OG. I love the fact that you can just play it so many times over and over and never really gets bored. It comes with different side pieces that you could put into the clear board in order to score different ways. It was a great time. Have y'all had a chance to play Drop It?
You already know though. Drop It was one of those games where I was just like, it's not necessarily a Dex game, but it's also not really. I guess like an abstract game would be the closest you could compare it to. But
Yeah.
man, it is a simple game. It is a quick game, but boy, is it spicy. Especially when it's like you literally have to go into like the instant replay, like 5K slow mo, just to like zoom in on where you drop like your shapes because it's just like I don't know, is it touching? Is it touching? Yeah. Oh,
Yep.
yeah. That game's sick.
Yep. And this was actually one that I considered just math trading away or selling it in the virtual flea market. And I just can't let go of this one because it's so easy to teach. I mean, you can be done teaching it in 3 minutes. It's colorful to look at, and it's just so fun just to get out and play and put it away, and then even use it as a filler. So, Victor, have you had a chance to play this one?
Yeah, it's been years though. I think we played it like at a WebCon or something like that a long time ago, and yeah, it was like a quick one. You bust out, everyone just starts giggling. You're fucking around trying to get like the shapes to balance and all that. I really need to get an Austin copy so I can hit that on the reg.
Yeah. Again, it's not something that's going to fry the brain or anything, but if you're looking for something light, honestly, even if you're trying to get, kids into the game or into the gaming scene, I think this is definitely a great start. It's colorful, simple, and quick to play. So definitely check it out.
Indoctrination type game.
Mm-hmm. That's Drop It. WAP Thoughts, the main topic of the episode. And here we are, our main topic, those WAP Thoughts. What are our favorite mechanics? You go into the Board Game Geek mechanic list, there's like, I don't know, over 100. I had to literally start doing calculations trying to figure out what is my favorite mechanic. There's just so many, and there's so many good ones. But after a while, just kind of had to pinpoint one and decided, hey, this is going to be the one I go with. And before we reveal what each one of us got and chose, I'm curious, how easy or hard did you find having to go through that list of mechanics and figuring one out?
Bro, I didn't even know there were that many mechanics. At first, I was just like, okay, like now they're just like making a game out of this. There's no way that all of these are actually stuff like where it's like okay, set collection, sure, tableau building, sure, but it's also just like 12x, 13x. I'm like, okay, like what are we doing here?
Well, I think I made my decision on which one to say is my favorite like 4 different times. Initially, I was like, okay, this one right here for sure.
Uh-huh.
And I thought about it, and I was like, no. And then the next day, I was like, you know what? I'm feeling. So,
Yeah, I
love it all, baby. What can I say?
Yeah, definitely. There's just so many good mechanics out there. So, to start us off, Victor, I'm curious, what is your favorite mechanic? Again, out of the hundreds of mechanics that there are, what did you decide to choose?
Yeah, so basically it came down to the way I thought about it was like so many mechanics can be great based on the execution, right? Like, there are good worker placements out there. There are worker placements that are like, eh. But, like, there's one mechanic. If I see a game has this mechanic, I am like 100% going to hit this at least once.
Mm-hmm.
And that's deduction, baby.
Ooh.
If you go filter by deduction on BGG, it's just like, it's oops all bangers. You can just go down the entire list, and it's all shit that I love. I mean, I kind of like mentioned it last podcast, was Detective City of Angels. Like, that one's like at like near the top. I think my game of the year probably for 2023, if we had been potting back then, would have been Mind Management. And I think the ones that I've been playing a ton of lately are Search for Planet X.
Yep.
Or Search for Lost Species. We actually kind of graduated to the sequel. So Search for Planet X, it's like a deduction game. You're trying to get information. You're like scanning parts of the sky on this kind of like rotating board. Or the board's not rotating, but like the area of the sky that you can scan is like kind of rotating throughout the game. And you're like scanning like an astrologer and like getting information about the sky at different points because you're trying to find Planet X. And it's a race, right?
Right.
Like you're all scanning different areas, and you can kind of get a little bit of information when someone scans something. Because another way to get points is to put out theories. And if your theories are right, you get points. If your theories are wrong, then you get shamed. Search for Lost Species kind of bumps it up another level, where you're on an island looking for a species. And you're finding all these other species, and the species all have different relations, right? Like the python is not in the same, it's not within one space of this other animal, blah, blah, blah. And that one's cool because you're a little bit more free to roam. And there's like a couple more mechanics introduced that give you like a little more to do on your turn. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we've been wearing the tape out on Search for Planet X and Search for Lost Species.
For both of those games that you're mentioning, do they both use an app or no?
Yeah, these both use an app. And everyone has the app. Everyone has to install it on their phones. You could share something if you wanted to. I think they support that, but it's it's free. It's pretty simple.
Could they be played without an app? I mean, not that it would be better,
No.
but okay. I was just curious.
No, yeah, because you need a person that like knows all the answers basically to be able to verify things.
I see.
I think they both might tell you like there's a way to play where one person is like a DM almost, right? Where they know all the answers.
They gotta be a chisel.
Yeah, basically. So I think that might be possible, but I'm not sure. We haven't tried it. And then another reason I picked deduction was because 2 BGG cons ago, we saw that there was a game called Turing Machine out. And this was like the moment I heard about it, it was the white whale, because it was in the hot games section, which the hot games you can rent out from the library, but you can only there's only 1 or 2 copies. Everyone's trying to get it, and you're limited to 4 hours, and you can see the library online. So I was just like refreshing the library all the time, being like, hey, Turing Machine, one of the copies. I said 3 hours, man. We better go sit by the library for the next hour.
I remember.
Until we see someone return.
I remember. I have PTSD from that day.
Oh my god.
Do you remember
and
the
we
story?
Just could not get the copy, dude. Until I think when was it?
It was
the last day.
Yeah, it was the last day. It was Saturday night, and I mean we were waiting for hours, and then finally it was I think it was 9 or 10:30 p.m. Usually, us WeAreBoard podcasters, we game until 4 a.m. They close the library at 1 a.m. every night. And if you keep the board game, then you just kind of return it the next day or whatever. But you can continue, Victor. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, yeah. I think, but that's part of why I picked it, because I was just I was like a dog with a bone, dude. We were like, we got to get Turing Machine. We got to try it. Because, yeah, Turing Machine, it's, you know, it's a lot of like deduction, logic, puzzling. You know, there is a code that is the right answer. And this one works. There is like a website or an app that you can use. But it's kind of built into the rule book. You have like, I think like over 100 like possible solutions. And it's got like a really clever system of punch cards where you can use the punch cards to generate a code, and then you can check them against verifiers. It'll give you a yes, no answer. And so you're basically like playing like a logic game, right? Where you're trying out different codes, and it's telling you, you know, this one gives a positive result, this one gives a negative result, and you start figuring out like, okay, this one gave positive, I think because the middle number was higher than 3, or because this number was less than the first number, you know. So you're just doing like all this logic, and it gets insane. This game you can play on nightmare mode, where you don't know which verifier is which. So you have 4 different verifiers that you're testing, but each verifier is randomly assigned to one of them, and you don't know which one. And it's just like, it's insane. But people get so good at this game, because most of the puzzles will tell you like how long it took a computer to solve it, and you'll be like, dude, that was so long. That took me like 15 questions to figure out the answer, and it was like the computer solved this in 4 verifier attempts.
Yep.
And you're just like, cap.
Cap.
Well, you know, this game, and it reminded me of that story. You know, we were waiting multiple hours at BGG Con to get it, and it was finally like 10:30 p.m. and you were like, hey, let's go over there. I'm sure it's about to like get put back on the shelf. And we went, and I don't know if you remember this, Big, but we went, and I saw from the corner of my eye, the dude walked in with the copies, right? And I'm like, hey, there's the copy. And they did an old school fashion handoff to their own friend
rope-a-dope
to get it back out. Was that you, Aaron, or was that you, Vic? Do you guys remember that?
That was probably Vic.
I do remember that happening. I don't remember if I was there watching, but I remember we were just like, dude, insider trading?
Yeah.
They didn't even put it on the shelf.
They didn't even let it touch that was the hot game of that year, man. And I mean, I mean, it definitely was my BGG Con game of the year for when, I guess it must have been 2022. That's when it came out. But man, I fell in love with that game right away. Like, I remember that the first time they were trying to teach it to us, it was just like a nightmare though, because it just felt so refreshing. Even though it is a deduction game, you know, it's like so much logic in it. It's so refreshing.
Yeah.
But the first teach was so out of left field. But you know, once you get it, I feel like, you know, it's a lot easier to teach and stuff. But yeah, definitely this is one is staying on my shelves forever. So this is a great game.
Yeah, and like my only thing is I haven't played it enough because like with Search for Lost Species, it was cool because I always say with deduction games, the more yes no functions you can create, the easier it is because it disrupts ambiguity. And I feel like that's what Turing Machine kind of has a bit of from some of the cards I used to play with, because it's like the addition of these are like equal to or greater than 5, and sometimes I would put stuff in and I was like, well, it equals 5, but it's telling me I'm wrong specifically on that. So I think I'm reading this wrong. And so I think it's one of those things where it's like Turing Machine is really good, especially when you have somebody who's like a Turing Machine pro, because they can kind of weave you through or like guide you easier to those yes or no functions versus it being kind of like a little ambiguous.
Yeah, to be honest, it's definitely because going through school for like programming, you go through all these kind of like logic things because you use it a lot in computers.
Yep.
So I'm just like, yeah, man, like if I hadn't taken like multiple university classes on this shit, it might be a real pain in the ass to play, to be honest.
It's still fun.
Yep,
Don't get me wrong.
yep.
It's still fun. But yeah, sometimes I'm just
Yeah.
kind of like, I'm doing exactly what you're asking me to do. And it's telling me I'm wrong, but like I'm not as wrong as I thought I was. And it's like, oh, this must be like 100% right. And it's still like, you're still wrong. So I'm like, bruh.
Well, I think what tells the story for this game is when I first got it, I was so excited because then after BGG Con, it was so hard to find in print. I had to. I think I just found someone on the BGG forums who said they accidentally got 2 copies or something like that, and like I bought it off them for like a little over asking price. You know what I'm saying?
Feel it. I feel it.
So I finally got it, and you can play solo. So I was like, dude, I just got it. I've been trying to buy this game for months. So I busted out, and then my girlfriend walks by, and I was like, hey, do you want to play this game? And she was like, is that a game? Like, are you just? You look like you're doing homework for fun. And I was like, I
You know me,
mean,
baby.
yeah,
It's true because I don't remember who I was playing with. It was a friend I invited, and Turing Machine is like one of those games that like it's kind of become one of those even like starter pack games. Once they played a couple games, I'm like, hey, try Turing Machine. It's not super difficult, especially if you're doing like the easier puzzles. And now that I've played it a million times, I can teach it very easily. Whatever. And it just had me cracking up because my friend would keep being like, okay, I got it. I got it. It was wrong every time.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
like, no, listen, this is why it works this way or that way. And then he's like, oh, okay, I got it. And he's like, okay, I definitely got it this time. This is the number. Wrong again. It was just, it's just so funny sometimes, like that logic aspect, like it's like, okay, why isn't this lining up? It lines up in my brain. Why isn't it lining up?
Yeah, I had that boy in
Yeah.
hell.
Turing Machine is a great one. Well, deduction, that is Victor's mechanic. Aaron, what is your favorite mechanic?
My favorite mechanic deals with the art of the deal. So, my favorite mechanic is negotiation. So, negotiation games explicitly involve and encourage players to make deals with one another with the off chance that there may be a little tomfoolery. So, for all the people
Uh-oh.
who know
oh,
of negotiation games, oh, I've never played a negotiation game. Yeah, you have. It's probably the most and probably only fun thing in Monopoly, where it's just like you're doing a little bit of table talk. Hey, man, I got this. You're sitting on Broadway or Boardwalk and, whatever the other blue place is, Park Place. I got like these three purples that, don't get you any money. And I got like $500 for you. What do you say? Just the art of deal in board games just has me salivating, right? So the two games
Mm-hmm.
that I want to talk about that really bring the art of the deal to the forefront is a game called Chinatown
deal.
and a game called Panic on Wall Street. So for Chinatown, basically it's 2 to 4 players, and each player is going to the game goes over 3 rounds where you have an auction phase where you're basically getting these little plots of land on the board. So the board's numbered from like 1 to I think 70, and they're broken up into 3 different areas. And so you'll put your little plots of land down, and the way that you score points is you'll have these little buildings. So you'll have like a shrimp shop, like a little tofu shop, like a little factory, and on those tokens, there's numbers that go with the token. So the more that the stall, like the more specialized the stall that you build, and the bigger that stall is, the more points you're gonna get or money you're gonna get, right? So it behooves
Mm-hmm.
you to try to trade with people, not only spots because you want your spots next to each other because that's how you build the chain, but you also want to trade these like icons and like these little stall specialties. So we played this at WobCon last year, and boy, oh boy, the Josh Bennett School of Business paid off heavily for you, boy. Because it's one of those
Mm.
things in negotiation games where it's like you have a basis of how to play. The game is very simple, but they take a little bit because all you're doing is just using that gift of gab to either completely screw over somebody
Mm-hmm.
or have like an even deal where it's like, I'm gonna pop off, you can pop off, and we'll prevent this other person from popping off. So negotiation games have a really, really special place in my heart because it's just so open ended. Like it feels like there's a part of board gaming that has like really good storytelling in it, and it's like in
Yeah.
negotiation, you're the one driving that story. And so a really fun game that we played was Panic at Wall Street. I think it was it 2019? Yeah, it was before COVID. So
Yeah.
basically,
2019.
so in Panic in Wall Street, you have 2 teams. One team is like a team of investors, and then you have another team of investees. So like the investors the investees have to buy products for people to invest in. And then the investees, they're the investors wait until the investees get their product and then they start, investing in it. Right. And so it's cool because like in the game, you're supposed to be making these deals. You're supposed to be, making like the most attractive deal. And so on the side, I created something that's like not in the game. I was like, hey, it's my friends and family discount. If you rock with me from turn one, I will always give you a discounted price. And so it's one of those things where it's like that adds just an extra element of the game that's not in the game that you can bring in because it's just you're creative. So yeah, man, the art of the deal, negotiation games. Oh, it's butter.
That the
Yeah, you had people sweating on Panic on Wall Street when you introduced that subscribers method, dude. People were sweating. I know some people were even mad. They were like, "What is this dude doing? It's not part of the game." It's like, bro, it's negotiation,
dude,
baby.
the people who missed out, man, they had heavy FOMO.
Heavy.
Yeah, that's why you got to tank Aaron when it comes to negotiation, because that man can fucking sell you anything, dude. It's crazy.
Bro, it's just all part of the game. I just love stuff like that because it's like I always say like in negotiation games, you have to always like one up somebody, but you have to sell it. Like, because I do marketing, right? And so it's like, how do you market this? How do you sell this to somebody where they're just like, that's a fire deal, or it's just like, yo, he messed up. I'm about to rob him, and it's just like, nah, baby, you playing right into these
Yeah,
hands, these velvety hands.
These
I,
hands.
I'm at 100% win rate on Chinatown. I've only played it once, and I'm never playing it again. Yeah, 100% win rate. What is the other game that is now replacing Chinatown? Because apparently, I know Chinatown also got some heat, a little
Yes.
controversy.
China.
Yeah, for China. Yeah. So before the tariffs were hot, people were really not feeling the whole, hey, this is kind of racist. Like Chinatown people don't only sell,
Oh,
sushi
I mean the cover
shops.
art.
Yeah, and the cover art was real man food chewy. So they
A
were not
little spicy.
they were not feeling it. So a new implementation of Chinatown, which is literally like a carbon copy clone, it's called Waterfall Park. It plays exactly the same. The bits are updated, and if you really want that Chinatown experience, but in a modern day, Waterfall Park's your game.
And that's negotiation for Aaron.
Negotiation.
Great mechanic, and I think it really adds a lot of creativeness when you're able to fully express yourself to negotiate these games, So definitely a really good mechanic.
Yeah. Well, I love the storytelling that comes out of it. Like you were saying, like you can build up all these things like over the course of the game. Like you've made deals with each other in the past, or like you've got into some corporate beef kind of thing. So in our game of Chinatown, oh my god, dude, you had me over a barrel, dude. I forgot what it was. There was some like piece of real estate that I wanted so bad all game. And like first round, we were trying to make a deal. We didn't quite get there because it's timed,
Right.
which I think is one thing that's really cool about it. Is because like you're in a rush because you're like, you can't sit there forever hemming and hawing. You got to like make a deal. And I was hemming and hawing too much, and I think we didn't make the deal. And I was like, next round. Next round, price of doing business had gone up. and I was like, yo, Aaron, please. What happened? We almost made that deal last time. And you're like, hey, cost of business, inflation. And I was like, ah. And each round I would just come back like, hey man, come on, let me get 27. Come on.
Yeah. Yesterday's price ain't today's price.
Ain't today's price.
Yeah. And it's crazy because like in that game, it's like the more you play, the more you kind of get the meta. Because I ended up winning that version of Chinatown literally because I spent zero money. Like every deal I made had me just gaining more money. And so it's one of those things where it's just like, if that is a strategy you want to go, because like it's almost worth, giving somebody like maybe $60,000, knowing dang well you're getting like 50,000 in residual like since turn one. So it's stuff like that you can kind of play around, you can forecast, all that good stuff makes negotiation real lit.
That's negotiation. Now, for my favorite mechanic, like I said, I went through the books, I studied them, and I was like, what is my favorite mechanic? I had a couple, but I was able to finally hone in on one. And the one that I decided to go with was hidden movement. Now, what is hidden movement, right? Basically, it's usually one versus all, usually, and it involves a player being hidden within a map. And so the person that is hidden has their own mini-map, usually, where they're moving around, leaving clues for the rest of the people to find. And they, it gets a lot more complex than that, but basically that's what it is, right? It's one person trying to hide for a period of time, while the other team, you can call it, they're trying to figure out where they are, hone in on them, and catch them. It's there's such an adrenaline rush when you are that one person.
Oh God!
Usually, I end up being the one person because most of the time, the person who is that person, I'm saying person a million times, but it's the person who knows the rules. Because if someone doesn't know the rules, there's no way they can know what the team's going to be doing when they're the ones having to control the hidden movement. So I most of the time end up being that person. And, when looking at the games, I was like, oh, yeah, I want to play these games again, just looking at them again. And the first one that I'm going to talk about is going to be Captain Sonar. Captain Sonar, 2016, designed by Roberto Fraga and Johan Lemonier. This game is considered a party game, but why it is a hidden movement game is because there's two sides to the table, and this is actually not one that is one versus all. It's actually a even team. So usually it's 4-4. 4 players on one side, 4 players on another. And they are all commanding a submarine. Basically, each member of a team has a role within that submarine. There's the captain, there's the radio operator, the chief mate, the engineer, and everyone has a board in front of them that they are basically marking with dry erase markers based on what the captain is deciding to move the submarine. So it's basically like a advanced version of Battleship, but everyone's doing something a little different. And so it's 2 different submarines, but the main goal is that they want to sink the other one down, right? The hidden movement comes in because neither team knows where they are. The only way they start realizing where they are is because the radio operator's keeping track of what the captain's saying to move. So, the captain might say, move left, move right. And so they're trying to follow on their map where they think they might be. This game is a party game, first of all. And second of all, it's just so much fun. Just the chaos between, you have 8 people in a room. And that's the only way I've experienced it, where it's the full 4-on-4. And it's definitely so much fun just being able to have everyone shouting at each other, trying to complete the puzzles, trying to make sure that they don't get sunk. Have y'all experienced that?
I
Oh,
experienced
hell
it
yeah, dude.
secondhand.
That one's it's such a white whale trying to play that game, because you want the ideal 4v4 experience.
You do.
But yeah, every time we've played, it's been like such a banger. Because the other thing is that you play in real time. So there's
That's
no
true.
turns. You just keep playing as fast as you can. The only limits is how quickly your squad can actually manage the submarine. Because every time you move, you basically take like a little bit of damage. There's kind of like a mini game the engineer's playing.
Yep.
So you're kind of like, as the captain, or anytime I've been the captain, I just am like, okay, we got to get out of here. They're on our tail. All right, north, west. And then the engineer's like, slow down, please. We're going to die.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, it just gets like really stressful, a lot of screaming. And then I do think my favorite, though, is to be the radio operator that's listening to the other captain.
Yep.
And hearing like their signals.
Yep.
And then like trying to whisper to the captain, be like, we got him, sir. Fire the torpedoes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and and when you hear that and you're on the other side and you're trying to scramble to get away and your engineer's like, "We are at all reds, Captain. There's nothing we can do right now."
We have to
It's
surface.
yeah, we have to surface. Oh yeah, this game again, you have to play it at full players. I feel like it wouldn't be hit the same if you play because BGG says you can even play 2-player. I don't think it'd be great at 2-player.
I don't even know how that would work, really. Unless a player's doing multiple jobs, which would be like brain power extreme.
Yeah. So, but if you have the full 8-player count, definitely this is one to hit. Aaron, what do you think of Captain Sonar?
I've never played. It seems like super stressful, and it also seems like a game I'd be very, very
Yeah.
bad. I would be hashtag a liability. I saw y'all play it at WobCon 2024, and I was like, man, I would provide no value to either team. So I provided the most
Do
value.
not put me in,
Yeah, do
coach.
not.
Yeah.
You coach.
I'll sit this one out.
Literally, I was just like, man, this looks really, really, really complicated because it's real time, and like I need to think. I need to be able to like process things as I go. But like doing a live action, I'm just like, dang, arms heavy, knees weak, palms are sweaty. It's mom spaghetti
Mom
everywhere.
spaghetti.
But
Hell
yeah.
yeah. And honestly, even the mini games are not difficult. I would say that the hardest one though is having to trace around your submarine in order to reset everything, because you have that stress that the other team is already catching up on you, and you have to be careful how you're tracing around the submarine. It's so much fun. But that's Captain Sonar. My other game that related to hidden movement, and you briefly mentioned it, Vic, and that's got to be mind management. Mind management is designed by Jay Cormier and Sen Fong Lim. Basically, you're working from the shadows, right? You have these powerful that agents that you're trying to stop, like global crisis, right? And this game is a one versus all. The one person's trying to recruit these agents, but the other team, they are these, I guess, ex-agents. They're rogue agents that basically they're trying to capture the boss, the mind management. And in order to do that, they have to go one versus all. But the boss is hidden movement. So they're trying to move across the map, trying to recruit all these other agents, and it's just like a cat and mouse game. Man, they all have different abilities. Every time I get to play this game, I feel like the tension is always high. Like it always comes down to the last movement in order to either get caught or fully get away. The artwork in this game is awesome because it's based off of an actual graphic novel, and it's the art is both by the designer. So basically, the person who did the art for the graphic novel is the same that did for the board game. So it's very consistent to the theme. The box itself has like some cool clues in it. It's a great game. What do y'all think of mind management?
Oh, dude, I think that was another one we played at a BGG con.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the problem was I had kickstarted it, and I was so excited for it, and I think it got delivered while we were at BGG con, which I don't live in Dallas, so I was like, well, that doesn't help me. But they had it at the library, and I was like, we gotta hit this. And yeah, I think 2023, like we played that game so much, because yeah, it's just like the pressure of being the boss that's hiding.
Yeah.
It's so lonely. It's so terrifying.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, it is terrifying, and everyone, you're just like trying to keep a straight face as you see everyone else plotting against you, trying to figure out every clue, and you're like, oh, I just completely five-headed this. I went the opposite way that they're talking about. But all it takes is for someone in that group to say, well, wait a second. what about this option? And that's when your entire plan starts crumbling away. It's a beautiful design, to be honest. Again, every time I've
Yeah.
played this, for me, it feels like it always comes down to those last turns because it's that close. Like it's never been like for me like a full like, oh, someone ran away with it, you know? It's always so close, like the deduction and being able to try and find the person where they end up being. It's such a good game. Aaron, have you played it?
Yeah, I was in the inaugural round. Call me Captain Dive Bomb because it's like I always like having the 1v tables because I'm always just like, yo, I'm the grunt. Just tell me where to go. Tell me where to capture, and I got you. And I think those are super interesting too because it's like, while yeah, it is a little sweaty for the person who's the one, they're really the only one who has like the full knowledge. So it's like if we spread out, it's like we can get him maybe in a one-on-one situation, try to find clues faster, but he can definitely just break our ankles. Like we can think he's going left. That boy is just like, oh dang, that's crazy. Says he goes left, or like even just like stands in the spot that you were just in, like while you're dive bombing to the left, thinking you got him. But like it always starts cracking down because like those games are cool because it's like it's normally based on like quadrants. With mind management,
Yep.
it's based on I think like the little icons that you have to go to. So it's like okay, so we know he has to go to
Mm.
a food place, a dessert place, and like a binocular place. So once you go to the binocular
Hmm.
place and the food place, it's just like well, well, well. Looks like you got to go to the drinks, and like we're bottlenecking both drinks. So it's like you got to show up somewhere, and then once you get that like that first whiff, you see those little feet. Oh, it's dive bomb city,
Yep.
baby.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I've had people play it just completely chaotically too, right? Well, they'll just move to a random square and try to catch. It is just
Oh
like,
no.
brother. And I think there was one time that like someone just did a random catch and they happened to be in the same spot and they just like beat the game in like the first like 4 turns. Like we just had to run it back at that point cuz it was just like, well, I mean, you did it. Like good job.
Well, it's a pretty quick game. I mean, the setup probably takes a little bit, but yeah, if you already have it out and someone beats it quick, like just run it back. It's not
Yep.
that long.
Yep. And this one, actually, I am going to give a shout out to their app. Uh, you know, they have a companion app to this game. Again, not necessary to play the game at all. The game plays without the app perfectly fine. But well, the reason why I want to give a shout out to the app is because you can actually play the whole game on the app. It's really weird.
Yeah.
It's supposed to just be like a companion app, but based off of my experience, I feel like I've played like an entire game on it. Have you gotten the chance to try that companion app, Vic?
Yeah. I did that multiple times where I was just like, I was like, oh, let me just check it out, see how it works. And then I was like, yo, I just played the whole game on the app.
Yeah.
It's not even like it doesn't want you to do that. It's not like advertising.
Yep.
But I'm like, yeah, man, I played the whole game.
Yep. But mind management, again, there's a lot of hidden movement games out there. Fury of Dracula is another one that comes to mind. So shout out to that one as well. But mind management, I feel like it just perfectly encompasses hidden movement. It's just the perfect design for that, personally speaking.
Shout out to the graphic novels too, because like all the art was so cool, and like it's all really built into like heavily into like the theme and the mechanics, and into just like all the components. And like you said, there's like hidden things in the box that you can find every time you play around. The team who lost, so like if the one person or the rogue agents win, they unlock like a new power up. So you kind of there's like a whole nother box that comes with it that's like additional powers for one or both sides to use that you start unlocking. I mean, you can just unlock them whenever you want, if you want to play that way. But you know, by the rules, whoever loses unlocks a new box, gets like a power up for the next round. So I went and immediately started reading the graphic novels, and those were really lit too. And
They
then
are.
reading those gives you like another sense of the game too, because
It does.
like playing the game, you're just like, oh, the rogue agents, they're all just friends and they're all just trying to fight this guy. And then you read the novel and then you're like, oh my God, like this is a lot more complex, you know? It's not just like a simple like, oh, we're the good guys fighting the bad guys.
That's a really good point. I played mind management the first time with you and Aaron at BGG Con, and I loved the artwork. I loved the way it played, and I ended up buying the entire graphic novel collection, right?
The omnibus.
The omnibus. That's right. And I started, and I read the first one, and then I went back to play the game again, and it was completely different for me because the novels the graphic novels are so complex, and they have so much more hidden theme, and the designer did such a good job incorporating those hidden themes into the board game and the board game box. Like, you're really doing yourself a disservice if you don't read those graphic novels as well. Granted, it's still a great game, but I love the fact that those omnibuses, like the graphic novels, really add so much more purpose to that game. It's a really good tie-in. I'll make sure to throw those omnibuses into the show notes as well. So if y'all are interested in getting yourself a copy, you should, because, man, even the box, right? The Kickstarter box. I don't know if retail's the same. I also have the Kickstarter version, but it's the box itself. It's so intricate, and it has like all this beautiful artwork on it, and there's like hidden secrets in the box itself. I don't know. It's really cool. I thought it was really cool.
And it's a display piece. Like, I have that one sitting facing out in the box. So I'm like, this is like the coolest box I have on the shelf. And it solves the problem of suction on board game boxes. It's got like a vent basically cut out of the bottom.
Yeah.
So when you're opening and closing, it doesn't do that fart sound, basically.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh my God, like literally everything about this is so premium.
Bro, you're not going to math trade it?
Oh, bruh, I'd have to math trade it for like 2 copies. That's the best I can do.
Best I can do is double it.
Double it. But reading the graphic novels too, I will say there's like some reveals. So like, because the game itself doesn't overload you with it, it just presents these characters and you're like, wow, this guy looks cool as hell, and he's just got a crazy ass power. That's cool.
Yep.
And then you read the novel and you're like, oh, I want to go back and play with him in the game.
Exactly.
Or you come back and then you're like, oh, I know what you did, you dog.
Yep. I feel that 100%. And again, one of the great things about this game is the replayability, right? Depending on the type of people you're playing with and the different abilities that you have, like, it changes the game every time, and you can try and outsmart people, and based on how they react, you can also react. And the fact that as the boss, you get these powers where you can skip squares, such a good design. I really love mind management, so definitely check out mind management. Check out Captain Stoner if you're looking for a 8-player party game with hidden movement. But yeah, hidden movement is my favorite mechanic of all time. Hey yo, is that a shining star? Nah, it's just a spotlight of the week. Spotlight of the week this week. What do we got? Well, we have a little app. This is a board game podcast. We try to be analog, but in this modern day and age, we should probably spotlight one of the greatest board game applications out there in this day and age, and that's called BG Stats, or Board Game Stats, however you want to call it. It'll be in the show notes, links to it. It's basically in the Google Play Store. It's also in the Apple Play Store, iOS. What is it, right? It's basically this powerful board game tracking app. When you talk about tracking, I'm talking about your collection, I'm talking about logging your plays. When you're playing board games, you maybe like big data. Well, this does a great job at keeping track of all the board games that you get to play. All those recommendations we give you for those board games, and you get those board games and then you play them, you can log them into BG Stats. But BG Stats, what it does, it analyzes everything you put into it, right? It has this flawless, seamless way to sync with Board Game Geek. So if you have all your collection already in Board Game Geek, it flawlessly syncs it into BG Stats. And what you can do is basically anytime you get to play a game, you just log it into your app. Why is this app so great? Well, first of all, it's developed by Irko Vissering. This is one developer, and to be honest, it is by far one of the greatest apps designed. I speak for the iOS. I don't have the Android version, but if it's the same quality as the iOS app, it's flawless. The integration with Board Game Geek, it pulls everything like it needs to. It updates the Board Game Geek site with all your plays, and most importantly, the statistics. If you like to know everything that is related to how you play, how you win, how you lose, and who you play with, this is the app for you. It comes with certain expansions. They call it expansions because as board gamers, we love our expansions for board games. They have the Deep Stats expansion. Basically, what that does is it gives you an even greater insight into the statistics when it comes to the games you're playing and the games you're collecting. You can track your H index. H index ends up being how many games you've played a certain number of times. It also it'll give you graphs and charts to visualize trends over time. And it makes it easy for you to be able to see which games you're playing the most and which ones are gathering dust. Then there's the challenge expansions. It's just as it sounds. The challenge expansions ends up being, 10 by 10 challenge or 1 by 100 challenge. What are those things? The 10 by 10 challenge being 10 different games you get to play 10 different times during 1 year. That's a very popular one. You can just put that all into your app, and it'll keep track for you. Every time you log a game, it'll check that box for you with that expansion. And last but not least, there's the tagging expansion. That is the most recent expansion that the developer has come out with for that app. And what that does is you are able to basically tag plays that you log or games that you're also logging. The reason why you might want to do that is because then you are able to start filtering all those custom tags that you add to the games or plays, and you start getting statistics based off of that. So if you're really into big data, this is definitely the way to go. Have y'all had a chance to mess around with BG Stats?
Yeah, brother. I started 2024 January 1st. It was kind of like, it was not exactly a New Year's resolution. It was more just like I just wanted to do it, and it just seemed like a clean time to start it. Yeah. Because I have such bad memory, dude. It's kind of a problem. I think it's like, I don't know, I don't get enough sleep or whatever, so I'm not like encoding memories or some shit, but like I'm just constantly forgetting.
That's crazy, dude.
I'm just so bad at remembering things, and like when you get to this point where you have like a whole shelf of games, you're just like going through them, and you're like, when have I even played this before? Like, have I played this in the past year? Have I played this like, enough to justify the $200 I spent on Kickstarter or whatever? So I don't know. There's just been so many times in the past when we've had a game and I've been like, guys, we've never even played this game, and they're like, what are you talking about, dude? We played it like a month ago. I'm like, oh yeah. So yes, I started tracking. I think it's really it gives you a little bit of freedom, like how heavy you want to track. So I like to track like the scores, right? And I'll just put in how much everyone scored, who won, things like that. Mm-hmm. You don't even have to do that. You could just track like, play the game, and not put any other details in, where you could go deeper and put like, this is what like role everyone had, or everyone's like start, turn order, time played,
Oh yeah.
location. Like, so
Oh
you
yeah.
can get like kind of as deep as you want. So yeah, so I like to track it. And I think what really got me into it was one of my friends. He's been tracking like pretty much like off and on, but like pretty consistently. Anytime we played like a heavier game, you
Yeah.
know, like
Yeah.
party games and stuff, he doesn't log in general.
Right.
But he's been doing it for a couple of years, and I just always liked from time to time he'd be like, he would just post an update in the chat and be like, all right, you know, so your win rate for, you know, the year was like 23%, which is 2% above expected. So, you know, you're doing pretty good, or, you know, things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that kind of stuff is really cool. Like you said, really into big data, and also just like wanting to not forget things all the time.
So some stuff you did mention that I want to, bring up about this. One of the things that, again, this single developer is a powerhouse. I feel like every time I open the app, there's a new announcement like, hey, these are new features that I just added. Like, it's just like constant. And, his talent has been recognized because he designed the application for Board Game Geek as well. So that's just a fun tidbit right there. After, his BG Stats app,
the market.
yeah, he they I guess they must have hired him, but he created the Board Game Geek app as well. And you can tell it's like the same developer because it works just as seamless, right?
Smooth like butter.
Exactly. But one of the things that, some of the things that just came to mind that you were mentioning, right, is when you're adding a game, let's say that you're adding it in real time, which is something I usually do. Now it gives you the option to start the timer. You can start a timer within the app. So like when you're done playing the game, you stop the timer, and now it logs how long it took you to play that game. And like it's just seamlessly coded, so even if you lock your phone, you can start the timer from like your widget home screen. You don't even have to unlock your phone. Another really cool thing about it is it now takes averages. It takes basically like an estimated of the purchase cost of a board game. So it kind of, looks at the markets and stuff. And for instance, I'm looking at Codenames right now, and it values it about $20. Well, it takes that, and based off of the plays that you've logged, obviously, it gives you a per play, per hour, per player hour cost. So you can see yourself if you've gotten your money's worth based off of just looking at this, right? So I'm looking at my code names just to kind of give an example. The purchase cost was $20. I've played it 8 times, and so each play has cost me $2.50 per hour.
Yo, dude.
$2.17. There have been
Practically making money.
Yeah, there have been 27 different players that have played my copy of Codenames. 74 cents each player. Like it goes, yeah, it's crazy the amount of love that was put into this app. Like I love seeing all this different data that I would have never even thought of, right? Now I know, like obviously I'm not going to go to every player and be like, hey, you got to pay 74 cents to play my copy of Codenames. But it's good to know, like, hey, I really do need to get my games played. I was curious, because I've been logging for a while. I was curious when was the first time I logged something using BG Stats. My first log with BG Stats was in 2015, April 21st, 2015. And it was Hanabi. And it was with Aaron that I played that. So that was the first time. Another thing that I want to mention as well, that is, really, really cool about this. It's a newer feature. The developer has added score sheets to basically every game. And it's not just score sheets where it's like, okay, well, just manually input like all the numbers and we'll add it for you and that's it. Like these score sheets are like custom designed for every game. And basically, like, it'll know exactly what different types of things give you points, so you can easily score and be able to find out who won. You've had a chance to use score sheets, right, Victor? What do you think of those?
Oh yeah, I mean, a lot of times I don't use them because usually we're. I think a lot of times I play with my friend Josh, and he'll handle the scoring. And so like,
That's fair.
Because he also has that. He's the one that has that app, so he'll pull up the score sheets every time. But yeah, it works like so smooth. It's always insane to me. Like we'll have like the most, just like a totally brand new game that just came out, and then he's like, "Oh, let me just pull up the score sheet on BG Stats," and I'm like, "Dude, there's no way they have it. Like it just came out." And he's like, "It's right here."
Yeah.
Just like, what? This guy is so on it. It's insane. But yeah, I mean, in general, I always like writing it down. Like if the game comes with a score sheet, I usually like to write it on there. But if it doesn't, you use this thing, and it's like it just works so perfectly. Adds it up everything for you. It's just like shocking how much this guy, like you can tell he uses this app all on the daily, and anytime he notices like a single thing, he's like, I gotta go fix that. I gotta make that smoother.
Yep. Or I gotta add this feature that I just thought of right now.
Yeah, and I think the sheets, they must be like crowdsourced in some way, because it's
They have to be. They have to be because there's way too many games. Yeah, yeah. And one more thing that I wanna mention about this app, and like I mean I could talk so much more about it, but the fact that it seamlessly integrates with Board Game Arena. You know, and I know there's purists out there who are like, yo, I want to keep my analog separate from my virtual.
Hey, you know.
I'm not one of them, you know. If I am able to get a game in Board Game Arena, I'm going to count it because time is fickle. and I got to get my plays in. So if you are in Board Game Arena, it has a seamless import feature where you can just import all your Board Game Arena plays. And not only that, it remembers the people you play with, it remembers the games, and it imports all the scores perfectly. And something I love about it is once you tie, so for instance, you know, I play with Victor and Aaron on Board Game Arena, and obviously they have usernames in Board Game Arena. Well, I only had to connect them once within the app saying like, hey, this username is connected to Victor. Now it knows every time that this username is Victor. And I don't have to keep doing it every time I import new games that I've played with him. Like it just knows. There's just so much that this app can do. So if you're into logging your games, I definitely recommend BG Stats. And like I said, I'll put those in the show notes. I definitely think it deserves that spotlight of the week for this week. Just because it has so much stuff. And now I do have a question for Aaron.
What it do, baby?
Do you log anything, Aaron? Do you log any of your games?
Hell no. I just play. Straight up for the love of the game, baby. I should, because it's one of those things where we have one of our friends who just got into BG Stats, but he kind of plays the same games. Like it's the same rotation of games. And it's also one of those things where it's like I feel like I should be documenting a lot more stuff. I need to get on it, but like after the game, we normally play since we play on Wednesdays. It's normally around like 10 or 11, and it's like instead of being like, oh, I got to document this or I got to post this, it's like, oh, I got to go home and go to sleep.
All right, that's fair.
So
that's fair. You were gonna say something, Vic?
Oh, one thing. I think the main thing that got me really, like I really wanted to start logging, was whenever my friend would tell us like, oh, that's the highest score anyone's ever gotten at this game, right? That's just the kind of thing you would never remember on your own. Or the funniest is this is the lowest winning score, which is kind of like,
oh yeah,
you know, impressive in its own way. But yeah, having stats like that, and then it even can tell you personal bests. So someone, you could play a game and someone's like, oh, wow, I never win at this game. And you can be like, hey, this was your highest score ever, though, you're improving. Or
Yep.
people are like, I never win at this game. And it's like, nope, it says right here, you won 6 months ago. You just forgot.
I see the Carfax. No, you did not win.
Well, and that history, I think, also is like a great thing to reflect on, right? Like, for my locations, I have all the BGG cons that we've done. I have all the WOB cons that we've done, and it's really cool to just like click on WobCon 2019, right? And I'm able to see all the games we played. Time Stories, The Marcy Case, Ganshon's Clever, Shobu, Gravwell, Bubble Tea, Food Chain Magnet, and Euphoria. Like, that's crazy. That was the first time we played Food Chain Magnet. So, like, I don't know. It's just a cool thing to reflect on and being able to, like, just have that history there.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, that's BG Stats for our Spotlight of the Week. Y'all definitely need to check it out if you're into looking at that big data. Choo choo! It's that BG hype train. Gotta back another one.
Let's get it. All right, so I'm coming to y'all with two Kickstarters. The first Kickstarter is actually a 2-for-1 farm to table, and it is covering Point Galaxy and Propopolis. So, Point Galaxy is a follow up to the smash hit card games Point Salad and Point City. It's a fast and fun card drafting, sequence building, set collection game for 1 to 5 players. There are over 140 unique planet space cards. You can create a completely different galaxy with each time, so there's a high amount of replayability. Point Galaxy takes the same simple concept of drafting cards and building the best combinations from Point Salad and Point City, and adds new layers of sequence building and spatial puzzles to the mix, making it a easy collection starter that families can get into, and even spicier for seasoned board games for board gamers. So, as a person who's seen Point Salad but never necessarily played it, it's on my to hit list for the simple fact that anytime I play like a Point Salad type of game, so like a Feast for Odin, and Bitoku's also like a Point Salad game, they're always like really, really hard and like really complex. I was like, I just feel like there needs to be like a 30-minute Point Salad game, and legit Point Salad slash Point Galaxy is one of those. So have y'all played Point Salad, or like how do you guys feel about Point Salad games?
I haven't played Point Salad. I've played a couple Point Salad games, and I mean, I'm a fan of Point Salad games. They do tend to be longer, but it's that adrenaline rush that never ends. Just because literally you get points out of all the things you've done that game. So I'm definitely a huge fan of the Point Salad theme. But again, I personally haven't had the chance to play Point Salad. I know it's very popular within the community, though. And again, it might be because it is a shorter game that kind of fills that void. But
Yeah.
myself, I haven't played Point Salad.
I have played it just on BGA, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, I mean it's quick. It's kind of like a sushi go kind of beat, you're just kind of like in and out, you're collecting. It wasn't anything that I was just like, "Oh, I need to buy this immediately." But I do think it would hit more in real life, and especially like as an introductory game, I think it probably brings a lot of people in.
Yeah, I feel it. I feel it. And so that's actually game one of two. The second game is Propopolis. So Propopolis is a simple, fast, and fun worker placement and engine building game for 1 to 4 players. So players take on the role of competing medieval bee colonies, deploying worker bees and trying to build the most glorious bee kingdom. It's got the feeling of a big resource management game experience in a small box that plays in just 30 minutes. One of the exciting and unique aspects of Propopolis is that the worker placement spots appear on a dynamic market of cards, so your choices are always changing. There's also a unique area control aspect to each of the rows of cards. The player who places the most worker beeples, haha, wins reward. So the tension in player interaction is especially high, while still being a game where you construct your own realm as you go. So when I was looking at this, I was kind of just like, okay, so they looked at apiary and they're like, this sounds lit. Let's make it short. And as a person who really likes apiary, I was like, oh, okay. Like
Yeah.
I mean, it's like it's a Jamie classic, a Jamie Stonemeyer classic. You know what I mean? And so when I saw
Yeah.
Propopolis, I was like, okay, if it's short apiary, this kind of might end up being like a better version, high key, because apiary
Interesting.
has like a huge board presence, and like you kind of need like a lot of people to pop off. But if you really want to like transition and gateway people into kind of like the worker placement, especially like engine builder, and you don't have gizmos, which I think is like the goal, the holy grail of engine building simple games. I think this might be worth the look. What do y'all think?
I'm digging the art uh on the cover box for Propolis, that's for sure. And the colors are like really making me want to get it. It just looks
Looks
really
tasty.
fun. Yeah, it looks really fun. It has that, that player board. I don't even know if it's a player board, but just looking at it on the Kickstarter page,
Hmm.
I like that it has those like slots where you can put the different I don't even know if they're like markers or whatever, but to keep track of it, kind of like that terraforming Mars, anti-terraforming Mars boards
Yeah.
where everything gets flies off the table.
Yeah.
So for a small box game like this to kind of have that quality in the box,
That
looks
dual
pretty
layer.
cool. Yeah, I might actually, and you say that it's kind of like a high key, better version of Apiary, maybe.
Yeah, because it's quicker,
I
in
might
my
have to.
opinion.
Yeah, yeah, I might have to look into it then because I did really enjoy Apiary. I thought it was a really good game, and the fact that it's coming from the people that gave us Cascadia and Calico and Point Salad, obviously. I mean, those are considered heaters in the board game community. So I don't see this being as a risky investment, to be honest, and it looks like a fun time.
And not only is it not a risky investment, if you want just one of them, it's $19, and if you want both of them, it's 35. And it's like I have tripped over more bad buys at like the 40 to 45 range, not even from Kickstarter. Like that's friendly local game store to table. So it's a really, so when you say it's a good investment, I'm like, yeah, you're buying something that's probably a proven product that's going to be, serviceable at best. And if it's not, it'll just run you $25 with shipping. You know what I mean?
Shoot, they're practically giving it away.
Bro, you're gonna make money on this when you're tracking on BG stats, like your point per player.
It's gonna be like negative $20, just like making
Well,
money off of this.
dude, I love beeples though. Next time I play Apiary, I gotta start calling them beeples.
Yeah, that was cute.
But, well, to be honest though, for me, like if it's like Apiary but lighter, personally, I would stick with Apiary probably. But if I hit it with one of y'all and it slaps, I could be convinced. But I like my shit heavy a little bit.
I feel you. I feel you. I feel you. So that is the Point Galaxy Propopolis Kickstarter. The next Kickstarter, I'm actually like I was at like when I was doing my research on this, I saw this game in the projects you'll love, and like I clicked on it because I was like, oh, the art's pretty interesting. But I was like, yeah, this game kind of looks a little fire, and that game is Fame and Fable. So, Fame and Fable is the 2 to 4 player hand management, push your luck, and strategy game from award winning illustrator Owen Davey. In Fame and Fable, you and your opponents will use your actions to recruit allies and items from the market and deploy these to defeat monsters, complete contracts, or disrupt other players. So you gain fame through your exploits to move your player token around the fame track. The player with the highest fame at the end of the game wins. So what drew me to this game is not only the super affordable price point of $38 with $6 additional for shipping for like the base version, but the artwork is actually like genuinely cool. Like it's a mix of like realism and psychedelic type vibes, and it almost looks like an alternate version of Adventure Time. And like when I think about when Finn goes against the Lich, it's like that type of artwork that this game is in. So this dude Owen Davey, he's the illustrator, but he's like also the creator. Yeah, dude's dope. And so as a game itself, it does seem to take after almost like Munchkin, where you're literally just building up your dude, getting enemies to fight enemies and kill enemies and stop your opponents from doing the same to get more points. And so these kind of games that are coming out that are like, hey, it's like Munchkin but better, like I'm all for, because the latest game that I got that I call it the Catan Killer is called Farms Race. It's legitimately Catan, except you have animals with asymmetric powers, and you have nukes. Like that is the only difference between that being a Catan game and like you're not building like rogues or anything, you're building bases. And I was just like, they took all the parts in Catan that in my opinion, aren't really the most like fun. Like the building the roads and having to do all that kind of stuff, and it just turned it into like an area control war game where you're still able to negotiate, you're still able to, roll the dice, get the resources, do all the things, and it's a quicker game. So if this is basically, in my opinion, like the Munchkin killer, I'm all for it because Munchkin's had its time to shine. It's time to shine. That boy Steven Jackson's been broked off, and I think it's time we get something a little bit more new into the BG bloodstream. What do y'all think?
Yeah, I mean the artwork is crazy. Like I love the colors, and it's so surreal. I just like, yeah, it's like an acid trip, to be honest. It's really really cool. And like you said, the price point's not bad at all. Kind of like a caveat to this one, it is his first Kickstarter, so definitely a higher risk. Someone getting into the board game Kickstarter scene, trying to figure out project management and costs. It can definitely be a little riskier, right, than people who have done 20 of them, but that's kind of the point of Kickstarter. So yeah, it's definitely a cool one. I don't know if it's for me personally, to be honest with you, just because I feel like I don't really play these kind of games as much anymore, but the artwork's awesome.
Yeah, dude. Well, like you said, heavy Adventure Time vibes. I actually literally thought it was Adventure Time for a second when I first pulled up the link. I was like, oh, is this like a spin-off or something? But yeah, I mean, I think it's underrated how much art does affect like how good of a time you have. I feel like people kind of look at it like negatively, like, oh, it's all art. But it just really makes playing it more pleasant. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what, like if it's like Munchkin like where you're competing, but it seems like there's like a solo mode, so I'm not sure if it's like co-op or something. But it does say hand management, strategy, push your luck. So I'm like, I mean, push your luck. That almost made the best mechanics of of the topic earlier. So I mean,
True. But
I need to look into this. My interest is piqued.
yeah, it has a solo mode. So it does have a solo mode, so you would just basically flip the board and you'd be playing by yourself. But outside of that, it's fully competitive.
I see. I see. Yeah, cool art, and yeah, it looks like one that it would be fun to put out there.
Yeah, Doges. So that is Fame and Fable. And so I'm gonna kick it over. BG hype topic.
Oh well, we definitely have one on deck, and this one's from GameFound. The competitor of Kickstarter. You come in with some Kickstarter ones, Aaron. I gotta come in with some GameFound one. You know what I'm saying?
True.
So for the GameFound one that I found, it's gonna be from Wormwood. If you're not familiar with Wormwood, they're Wormwood tables. They're basically, some people will call them the Ferrari of board game tables, right? They do tend to be pricier, but that's because they've been in the game for so long, and they've been always very particular about their quality. I would say they are definitely the top tier when it comes to quality in board game tables. They have different types of the wood that you can build your table out. They're the ones that kind of introduce that layer, that table layer for your board game tables, where you can kind of put pieces of wood over your board game, so then you can just use it as a eating table, dinner table or whatever. Again, they do tend to be pricier now that they're on GameFound. I believe in 15 hours from when we recorded this, they'll go live. There'll be cheaper options. They might even throw free accessories or whatever. But definitely, if you are in the market to get the best quality board game table, at least look into this GameFound, because you are going to get what you pay for. And a lot of different places tend to kind of cheap out on the wood, or there will be defects on quality. You can expect that Wormwood definitely will give you the best quality for the amount of money you're paying, right? So at least take a look at it. I'll include it in the show notes if you're in the business of buying a board game table, or if you want to splurge a little and make it look nice with that felt, get some cup holders, some hobby trays. Definitely take a look at it. Have y'all heard of Wormwood before?
Oh yeah, baby.
100%.
Anytime I look at the Wormwood tables, I'm just like, man, this is what the royalty. This is what that boy King Louis was playing his board games and beheading people on.
Oh my god. Yeah, I remember one of the first BGG cons. They were a vendor there, and we walked up, and we were just like oohing and on, just touching the wood. Like, oh damn! Imagine hitting a food chain magnet on here. My god.
Yeah.
And like the sales guy was talking us up, and I think like me and you, Tony, we were both just like, oh, tell me more. Oh, okay. And cup holders.
Yep.
Oh, outlets.
Yep.
Lights. We were like, speak to me. And then we're
Yep.
like, so how much? Like, about how much would that be? And then he was like, well, it's gonna vary based on the options. And we're like, but tell me a number. He's like, well, with all the options you've said, that's gonna be like 10,000. And we were like, whoa,
Yeah.
dude. He's like, no, but you take off all those options, and it's only like 3,000, 4,000.
Yeah. Well, and in their defense, right? The one that we looked at was like the fully electric, like the table would like move by itself.
Move
I
up
don't know
and
if you
down.
remember that. Yeah, it had like a
Yeah.
little like motor to move that. But yeah, I mean they're definitely more expensive. Again, through GameFound, they're not gonna be that much. I'm currently looking at the different wood types. It does the rustic cherry starts at 2,499. The premium walnut goes to 4,499. So I mean they are expensive, right? So this is definitely a luxury item. But if you got the money, definitely one to look out for. It's definitely something that's on my mind. That I'm thinking about getting a new board game table to kind of fit the board games better. They just sit so much
Yeah.
better on that felt. You know what I'm saying?
The board games like it too. You can tell they're happier.
Exactly.
No, but I would heavily consider it if I had space anywhere in my house for a table, which is why I got the Game Fold, which I'm actually potentially getting delivered pretty soon. They're like in production. They just got like the first like 300 whatever. Which is like it's like a folding game table. So it's it's basically like an upgraded folding table.
Yeah.
They just kind of decked out a little bit. So yeah, they're very new. So we'll see if this was a good investment.
A good investment. Yeah, you'll have to report once you get that though, because always got to give them a shout out if it's solid. Is it?
Yeah.
How many people?
Stay
Like,
tuned.
is it a topper or is it like a whole table?
Oh, it's a whole table. Yeah, it's just like a regular folding table where you can just kind of pack it up and carry it on a handle, which is the reason I got it, so I can just fold it up and like put it up against the wall when it's not in use.
So how is it different from just like a regular folding table?
Well, it's got like an inset thing, where there's kind of like
okay.
like an outside level.
Yeah.
And it's got kind of like a railing system, so you can buy additional attachments, right? Like
for
little
like
cup
the cup
holders, card
holders.
holders, like little elbow rests and stuff. So yeah, it's got like a ton of accessories. That's
How many people can you? I'm assuming there's different sizes and stuff, but how many people is the one you got? Like how many people can it sit?
it should be like 6 people, right? 2 people on each side, and then plus another person on each end.
That's awesome.
And then it's got like I got like a couple attachments, some LED lights.
Ooh,
But we'll
luxury.
see. Yeah, it won't be premium like Wormwood. I think like when I was looking to buy a house, I was like, in the back of my mind, I was like, if we got like an extra room where I could fit a table. But that did not come to be.
Yeah. Yeah, well, if you have the space and you're looking for a luxurious table, look at that. Game Found, Wormwood. It's a good quality. It is a luxurious piece, but it's worth it. Thanks for tuning in to We Are Bored Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the episode and found a little inspiration for your next game night. For more board game content and episode show notes, visit our website, wapod.com, where you'll find everything you need, including updates and more. Don't forget to check out our YouTube channel, We Are Bored, for reviews, playthroughs, and extra content. You can also connect with us on Instagram at WeAreBoard for updates, behind-the-scenes fun, and all the board game eye candy you can handle. Until next time, keep playing, keep exploring, and remember, every roll, deal, and turn tells a story. What's yours?